There are few voices in film today as distinctive and as memorable as Ari Aster. I have a deep respect for directors who take risks and give us original works, and Beau is Afraid appears to be Aster's biggest risk yet. The film is polarizing, but regardless of whether you liked it or not, I think all of us can agree that it's interesting and a breath of fresh air, especially in a time where the main gripe against Hollywood is its lack of originality. I know a lot of people complain that the film doesn't make any sense, or that it's nearly impossible to distinguish between reality and hallucinations in the film, but who says that the film has to make immediate intuitive sense, or that it even matters what's real and what's not? For me, it's pretty clear that Beau is Afraid is a surrealist horror thriller that also takes heavily from German expressionism. German expressionism was an art movement that was known for its high contrast lighting and dystopian set pieces and locations that were often characters in and of themselves, and these can be seen in Beau is Afraid. Expressionist films were also heavily Freudian, another aspect that Beau is Afraid greatly exhibits. When it comes to Surrealism, which is an avant-garde film movement that started in Paris in the 1920s, we can clearly see Beau is Afraid taking heavy inspiration. Surrealism deals with expressing the unconscious, and as a result, surrealist art is extremely metaphorical and dreamlike. I have heard a lot of people describing Beau is Afraid as seeing someone else's nightmare unfold, and I have to agree with this description. Some notable surrealist films include Un Chien Andalou and my personal favorite, Meshes of the Afternoon. I couldn't help but think about these films when watching Beau is Afraid, and now I'm convinced that they all fall into the same camp of surrealism. Surrealist films are extremely confusing at a first glance, and usually make no logical sense. But what you are looking at in a surrealist film is not a linear dramatic story, but rather the expressing of an emotion. You are seeing the human psyche in its rawest form, and while the images may seem foreign, the emotions certainly aren't. Surrealist films are not for everybody, but let's not hold it against Beau is Afraid for not conforming to our typical film expectations. I'm not going to be upset that Beau is Afraid didn't make immediate sense to me, or that it wasn't the film that I thought it would be, since it was so different from Midsommar and Hereditary. Complaining about the lack of an easier story to follow seems to miss the point. Beau is Afraid is meant to illustrate a wide array of emotions, ranging from guilt, to control, to narcissism, and to anxiety, and it executes these well. The film is not meant to offer a continuous narrative, since that's not what surrealist movies do. With a film this layered and complex, we need to watch it again at least once before we can really arrive at any conclusions. There are so many great films out there that I had to rewatch multiple times to grasp the brilliance, and I feel that Beau is Afraid falls in this camp. This movie is definitely not for everybody, but the artistry within it can't be denied. Ari Aster loads each shot with tons of details, and so the mise-en-scène that Aster has become known for is there in this film. The camera work, especially from a horror perspective, is executed brilliantly. The film gives us such a variance in locations, and all of these places that the movie takes us will stick with me since they're all so unique and interesting. The film seems to be striving for a long, journey-like story with its own complexities, like an eclectic mix between the Odyssey and Oedipus, and I think the film nails this tragic hero narrative it goes for. I want to save the deeper meaning and analysis for my next video that will be up soon, but from a technical perspective, I love this movie. The shots and locations are great, the acting is phenomenal, the tension, especially during the first hour, is super effective, and the movie also finds a way to be hilarious while doing all of this. The dry humor Aster incorporates is different from his other movies that were all serious, but I think this humor works out greatly in the film. You could easily view Beau is Afraid as a black comedy, but many of the jokes incorporated in the film should land for most people. Now I will say that not all is perfect with the film. The only real thing that jumps out to me is that some sequences feel a bit too long, namely the theater performance section in the woods. I think some trimming could have been done here while keeping all of the important plot points and thematic elements. But like I said earlier, I really want to watch this movie again before I narrow down my complaints. There are some areas where I'm thinking, what the hell did that have to do with the story or the message of the film, but I really want to watch this movie again before spewing my judgment. Overall, Beau is Afraid gives us a refreshing take on a genre of movies that we hardly see, the surrealist film. The movie has a perplexing narrative, but trying to piece together the story to figure out what definitively happened seems to not be the focus of the film. Beau is Afraid is meant to show us the reality someone lives in, despite this reality seemingly stemming from manifestations of his subconscious. This movie is definitely tailored towards the art house crowd, especially when you compare it to Midsommar or Hereditary. Beau is Afraid is easily the most abstract and ambitious film from Ari Aster. I think it's going to take some time, but I won't be surprised if this film gains a cult following, especially from viewers who love more conceptual works. I think the more people that watch this movie and break it apart, the more they'll appreciate it, and since this is the first week of the release, we haven't had that time to fully dissect the film. If you know your film history, then you probably know that Citizen Kane, considered the greatest film of all time by many, was initially a box office and critical failure. It wasn't until well after the movie's release that the film had a resurgence in France, with French critics heavily praising the film, and this led to the recognition of Citizen Kane's genius. I don't know if Beau is Afraid will be the next Citizen Kane. That's obviously a very high standard, and it's too early to call, but I do think this film will amass a special group of followers who will really jive with the material. I still think this is one of those movies you have to see at least once, since it's so different from other films. The film is incredibly meta-cinematic, and I remember just sitting in my seat after it was over for a good chunk of time, reflecting on what I had just watched. In fact, it wasn't just me, it was my whole theater. People sat there for at least 5 minutes, pondering on what the hell they had just seen, and it takes a special talent to create a competent film that can do that. I have a feeling that this movie will get a lot more appreciation with time, but for now, it's a must-see for anybody who enjoys horror and psychological thrillers and who doesn't mind not getting an immediate answer to all of their questions. These are just my initial impressions, and I plan to get an analysis of the film out soon. But for now, thank you Ari Aster for giving us a fresh and hauntingly beautiful experience that all of us will remember.